Back in 2023, when I reviewed the original First Squadron on Nintendo Switch, I concluded with, First Squadron is a reasonably well-executed love letter to Star Fox and rail shooters in general, and it is clear that the potential is there for this developer to pull off something much larger in scale. Just under 3 years later, and I could not be happier to say that First Squadron Phoenix absolutely delivers on that potential. Developer Raptor Claw manages to address nearly every critique I levied at the original, and the result is a thoroughly entertaining and heartfelt Star Fox-like experience. You play as a new protagonist, Robin, a member of Phoenix Squadron. After your entire squadron is shot down in the opening mission, you are reassigned to First Squadron to train up and get some sweet revenge. The campaign consists of 8 stages. Each one is fairly long, and odds are you'll need a couple of tries to get through many of them. Levels are split between training missions, which take place in a virtual environment, and story missions, which take place in the real world. Training missions award you with experience that can be used to upgrade your ship. You get experience whether you complete the training missions successfully or not, creating a nice sense of progression even when replaying the same level to clear it. Story missions, on the other hand, award you nothing if you get shot down. I enjoyed this from a narrative perspective, and how it dramatically reinforced the tension of story missions. With no checkpoints, failing a story mission feels like a much more significant loss than losing a simulated training mission. Rail shooters that are built on replaying levels to earn upgrades don't always work for me, as difficulty often feels artificially inflated for the sake of padding out the experience. I didn't mind as much in First Squadron Phoenix. The difficulty curve felt challenging, but never outright unfair, and well balanced to the amount of experience you get along the way. It would be difficult, but I suspect it is completely possible to finish the game with the starting ship, if you really wanted to. It also helps that level structure and enemy layout is somewhat randomized each run. The big set-piece moments are always the same, but you'll come up against different enemy patterns that prevent you from completely memorizing any stage. The one downside here is that you do start to pick up on the different enemy attack patterns that come up within each level's more randomized segments. I'd have liked to see this randomization be a little more aggressive. At the same time, there is some satisfaction to be found in coming up with the perfect combo of charged shots and special weapons to use to effectively combo your way through patterns when you learn to recognize them. Level design itself ranges from passable to excellent. At worst, some of the early levels feel very open, with the only real challenge revolving around managing the waves of enemies coming at you. But after the first few stages, there gets to be a bigger focus on piloting around obstacles in more authored set-piece moments. A couple of the later stages revisit earlier ones briefly before sending the level off in a wildly different direction. Some of the best moments involve weaving through twisting tunnels as the camera snakes around behind you. It is incredibly satisfying to come out of these moments having cleared every enemy and dodged every obstacle. It's in these moments that you can see how well First Squadron understands what makes the genre great, and my only complaint is that I wish it would let loose like this a little more often. While there is no distinct Switch 2 version of First Squadron Phoenix, the developer has taken smart advantage of the hardware by including a performance toggle mode. This unlocks the frame rate, allowing for the Switch 2 to hit a consistent 60 frames per second, where the original Switch defaults to 30 frames per second. It's a nice option, and from my experience playing a pre-release build on my Steam Deck, the Switch version is well optimized, and the Switch 2 offers an even smoother experience. The rendering resolution is definitely constrained by the Switch limitations, but it still looks pretty sharp on Switch 2. I did find the controls a little stiff when trying to make subtle movements. This was an issue I raised with the original game as well, and while it feels a bit better here, I did still wind up adjusting the sensitivity to alleviate the issue. I've been reviewing games for NWR for over a decade, and there have been plenty of times where I've said something to the extent of wanting to see a developer take a second run at something. And seeing the evolution from First Squadron's simple, half-hour-long debut to First Squadron Phoenix's visually diverse and expansive campaign is incredible. The controls are still just a little stiff, and there's perhaps a bit more repetition than is ideal, but it's hard not to be taken in by the charm. This is a great rail shooter that hints at even more potential for a third entry. If you're looking for something to fill that perpetual Star Fox-shaped hole in your heart, First Squadron Phoenix makes for a wonderful alternative. I very earnestly cannot wait to see what this developer does next. This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.